the Grafton Finance Committee to order. We have a very brief agenda, although we do have a couple of other things that came up this afternoon that we want to talk about. But the first order of business is I want to let you know that I was under the understanding that the legislation for the appointment of the Finance Committee had passed. And we were ready to follow the new process, and that's the moderator, someone from the FinCom and the town clerk would make the appointment to Irene's vacancy. I found out from Evan this afternoon that it only passed the House. It's hung up in the Senate for whatever reason. So now I'm regretting doing the special act because I figured that would be the most efficient way to do it. And that's what I recommended to this committee when we brought it forward. Unfortunately, it didn't pass yet. So the moderator is still the appointing authority of the Finance Committee. So I'm going to reach out to Dawn Anderson and talk to her and let her know that she's still the appointing authority for the position. We received 3 applicants that came in. The 2 from the previous time that we did the interviews when Angelina got appointed, and that's Skip and Greg. And then the other person, Susan, is Kyle
James.
Kyle James. I guess he's on the Capital Planning Committee. I'm going to, unless this committee objects, I'm going to recommend to the moderator that she appoint Greg Marr. And the reason for that is he was our runner-up the last time we did our interviews, and we were very comfortable with him. And I would like to do that. So unless the Finance Committee has an objection, that's going to be the message I'm going to pass along to the moderator. Is that okay with everybody?
Sounds good to me.
Go ahead, Dan.
Do we need to make a recommendation?
We never have. The moderator has always just done the appointments and never really received feedback from the Finance Committee. But the reason I want to make this recommendation to her is because we went through an interview process. We interviewed the candidates. I thought we did a very good job doing that. And Greg, I think, what was it, 5-4 or 4-3 or something like that? Yeah. Greg was very close to getting appointed the last time. So it seems to me that would be something that we want to consider. So that's just my 2 cents.
Well, we never met the third person. I would feel like kind of slighting that person.
I see. That's a very, very good point. I look to you for advice. How do you want me to handle this? Just say, Dawn, it's up to you. Have fun.
I mean, if she wants to ask our input, I think it would be important to ask the third person. I mean, I should say I know him personally, and not very well. I met him like a couple times, but
from what I hear, Dan, he's a great guy.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's more just having not, like, I've also never really asked him anything relevant to Finance Committee. So, I think Greg will be great. And I think Skip will be great. And I just feel like to make a recommendation, I think we would want to know the third applicant.
All right, let me ask you this question. Here in where I work in Groton, when the select board used to make the appointments before we went to the 3-member committee, the selectmen would have the Finance Committee interview and make a recommendation for appointment. Dawn has never made an appointment before to the Finance Committee. So I will ask her if she would like our input. And if she does, I will schedule another meeting and we'll bring all 3 candidates back in for another interview, and then we can make a recommendation to Dawn. Does that make sense?
Sounds good to me.
Everybody? Heather, does that sound okay?
Yeah. I want to give him a chance. I would feel bad.
You're right.
Yeah,
I just was thinking about Greg, and I apologize. You guys are 100% correct.
I also feel like just kind of I do want to say I feel bad with like Greg applying for a third time and being like a really great candidate who, I totally would love to have on the committee. And I definitely don't want to sound like I'm saying, maybe this other guy's a great reason to not appoint Greg. Like, that's not at all what I'm, getting at. So
no, if we're going to make a recommendation, we should talk to all 3 candidates. You and Heather are 100% correct. Andy, go ahead.
I was going to ask, should we talk to all 3 candidates, or do we just need to bring the newest guy in?
You tell me. You're right. How long ago did we appoint you, Angelina? Seems like forever. Years and years.
March.
And years.
June, I think.
Yeah,
Was it March?
Like 7-8 months. Yeah.
So
8 months.
back in like the 5th year of COVID, right?
Well, what do you guys think? Just have us meet Kyle and then make a recommendation? Because we did interview Skip and Greg already.
Yeah, I would think that you just want to meet the one that we haven't met yet.
Okay.
I mean, I
All
know
right.
both. Yeah, I know the other two, so yeah.
Okay. Let me talk to Dawn and find out what her process is and what she thinks, and we'll take it from there. Excellent.
'cause
I'm glad
she
we had this
might-
conversation.
She might not even want our.
True,
Right.
true.
So.
That's true. I will find out and I'll report back to the committee. Thank you for that. The second thing that we need to talk about is the TRICOM committee. And so one thing I want to do, if you guys give me 2 seconds here. I received an email this afternoon from the chair of the select board. I think you got it too, didn't you, Susan?
I did.
Okay. So the select board met last week and they talked about this and they decided they wanted to come up with a charge of the TRICOM subcommittee. So let me share my screen here so that you can all see this. Can everybody see it?
Yep.
Okay, so the purpose of the TRICOM committee and the select board is going to take this up tomorrow night, I believe. It's going to be a 6-member committee, 2 select board members, 2 school committee members, and 2 members from this board. They'll begin as soon as the charge is adopted. They'll meet quarterly. And there, you can see their charge is to engage in discussion regarding mutual finance related topics. And you have a list of responsibilities there, discuss the annual budget, assess projections, make recommendations to the town administrator, and when necessary, bring topics of discussion back to the host committee for further discussion on relevant issues. I like this charge. I think it's a very good charge. I think it's exactly what the TRICOM subcommittee should do. So I would like, if it's okay, and by the way, I would have sent this to you earlier, but I literally got this at 4:30. So that's why I didn't send that out in advance. I wanted to share it with you here. Does anybody see any issue with this charge? Do you have any questions or concerns with it? Go ahead,
yeah,
Dan.
So I watched the select board meeting from last week when they talked about this, and there's a question of whether it's like a subcommittee of the select board or some other entity or something like that. And it sounded unclear what the actual answer to that is. And I just wanted to point out that I'm not sure what the implication would be for open meeting law if it's not a subcommittee of anything and it's not defined in a bylaw or the charter, if it's just some like informal committee. So I just want to make sure that's addressed and considered. Because my view is that it should be subject to open meeting law, and we should make sure that however we set this up, it is subject to open meeting law.
I agree. Evan. Hey, Evan.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Doing good, grinding away.
What's going on?
Yeah, so I think, this would be a standalone committee. I think it would be really hard to make this a subcommittee of the select board as you've got other independent committees represented on here. And so you don't want to make it, another legislative arm of the select board. And it would be definitely subject to open meeting law. Once this charge is established and voted, they'd have to follow all the other provisions therein.
Okay.
I think it should, well, yeah, go ahead, Anjali, just really quickly. If the select board adopts this charge, then it automatically is a committee that would have to follow the open meeting law, right, Evan?
Correct,
I mean,
yep.
Go ahead, Anjali.
Absolutely.
What brought this on? Like
Well, what happened was, the way that it worked before, from my understanding, that's a great question, is we used to have a TRICOM, and the last one we had in person was just before the override, before COVID hit, if you guys all remember back in
Mhm.
March 2020. That was our last meeting all together in the selectmen's meeting room. We were all sitting on top of each other. I'm surprised it wasn't a super spreader event at the time. And so then we decided it's important to have all 3 boards continue to talk. So it sort of fell by the wayside when the town administrator office changed and then COVID hit, and we really didn't bring all 3 boards and committees back together. So the school committee met, I'm gonna say a month and a half ago. And the school committee said that having all 18 people in a room at the same time is very difficult to do anything because you have 18 different opinions and it's a little hard to coordinate things. So the school committee recommended that they have a subcommittee made up of all the boards and try to do it that way. So the school committee designated 2 people, and then I said, okay, well, let me schedule a meeting in the finance committee for us to talk about 2 people. And then the select board brought it up to their meeting last Tuesday, and that's when the question was, well, what are they gonna do? And that's how this charge came about. That's the history. Go ahead, Sue.
I just wanted to say the TRICOM committee started way back before that. It was about, I would say about 8 years ago, we started TRICOM because we were starting to look maybe even farther than that when we started first looking at the first override. So there was the TRICOM committees formed then, but we didn't meet quarterly. We met like just a couple of times to discuss projections and expenses, revenues and whatnot. So it's really been around for quite a while, but it's not been in service. But it needs to be brought back, certainly.
Do you agree with it being a smaller subset of the 3 boards? Or do you think it needs to be everybody like we had in the past?
No, I think the 3 boards get more, it's more efficient if you have 3 boards. And each board will bring forward what the committee would like to be discussed or bring viewpoints, to the person representing the tri-committee. So no, I have no problem with it just being the 3 boards.
How does
Like-
everybody else feel? Is it all right if I take this down so I can see everybody?
So what you meant is you're fine with being the 3 pairs of representatives.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that you'll be more efficient that way.
Do we want to, Evan, would it be helpful to the select board if we took a vote to say that we agree with the charge? Obviously we can't approve it's their charge, but having a vote of support, would that be helpful?
Yes, I believe so.
Go ahead, Barry.
We've just identified 6 people, none of whom are in the town administration. Do we need to add the town administration as part of this little committee?
That's a good question. Evan?
I don't think so.
Thank you.
No, I actually don't though, because I don't think that what you're trying to set up here I don't think the town administration should have a vote. Town administrator administrator in this office will definitely have a say because it'll be a conversation, but I don't necessarily think that this office needs a vote.
Well, it's also your budget that gets created, so that's kind of your vote.
That's what I was thinking exactly, right?
Yep.
You mean you don't want to spend every night of the week with one of our committees?
No, this is great. I've got a 5 and a 7 tonight, so I'm in it today.
Hey,
Absolutely.
I have this one, I have a 6 and I have a 7, so I'm
Ooh.
gonna beat you tonight.
You are.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion to send a recommendation to the select board that we agree with and support their proposed charge. Is there a
So
motion?
moved. So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Go ahead, Barry, for discussion.
Who is in charge of this 6-member committee?
Well, I
Who
would
is the-
imagine once it's appointed, then
ahead.
the committee would meet and organize and decide who's gonna chair it and all that sort of fun stuff.
Okay,
That's what I think. Evan, do you agree?
I agree 100%.
So, any further discussion? All those in favor by roll call, Barry,
very aye.
Sue Robbins,
Aye.
Andy,
Aye.
Heather,
I,
Aye.
Angelina.
Aye.
Okay, so now we have to set aside two members. I would like to volunteer to represent this committee on the TRICOM, if that's okay. Is there anybody else, or 2 other people, and we'll figure it out that way? Is there any other people interested in representing us? Please, not all at once.
I don't mind if no one else wants it. Otherwise, I think it should either Andy's representing Finance Committee for School Budget anyway, so I'd kind of like to see him take it. If he's willing.
Second.
Hey, and Andy, here's the funny part. You're here. Usually we appoint you when you're not here.
It's tough to argue at that point.
That was very Churchillian.
All right, is there anybody else volunteering to serve on this?
No.
All right, so then I will entertain a motion to appoint Mark Haddad and Andy Jefferson to the TRICOM subcommittee.
Second.
Is there a motion?
I
So moved.
Is there a second?
second,
Any further discussion? All those in favor, Barry,
Aye.
Sue,
aye.
Andy,
Hi.
Heather,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Angelina,
Aye.
Mark, I. Sue, what else do we have on the agenda? There was something else. There's two other things we needed to talk about.
Oops.
Yes, it was reorganization for a vice chair, please.
Oh, yes, we need a vice chair because Irene's not here anymore. I would entertain nominations for vice chair of the finance committee.
Who's not here today?
I was gonna say, do we throw Andy under the bus again?
This seems to be Andy's night. Do I have an entertain a motion that Andy Jefferson be vice chair? Go ahead, Sue.
I was just gonna say we can move Dan up from there.
Oh,
From
Dan
town,
was the clerk.
yes. And
Good
maybe,
idea. Second the motion.
All right, so the motion is Dan for vice chair. Is there any other nominations? All those in favor of Dan Kusher as vice chair signify by saying aye. Barry,
Aye.
Sue,
aye.
Andy,
Hi.
Heather,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Angelina,
Aye.
Mark, aye. All right, awesome. Dan, congratulations.
So now we need clerk.
Oh, so now we need a clerk. I have a nomination for clerk.
Pilot on Andy.
I was gonna say, I nominate Angelina to partake in some of this fun.
Ooh.
Second.
Oh, any other nominations?
No.
All right, all those in favor of Angelina as clerk signify by saying aye. Barry,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Andy,
Hi.
Heather,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Angelina.
Is anyone gonna have to read my writing at any point? Because that could
No,
really be a
that's why we
problem.
have Sue. That's why you're very lucky.
Aye.
And then Mark, aye. All right, what's next, Sue?
We wanted to discuss the method of how to review the departmental budgets.
Yeah, so with this whole ClearGov thing, the way that it's all working and the way that it's all coming to us, the question is are our individual department meetings necessary since they all come in to see us as a group anyway? So Susan asked a very good question. Is this something that this committee wants to discuss? Do we want to continue to have our subgroups go out and meet with the individual departments? Or because we're getting all of the budgets, we could look at them in advance because of ClearGov. Do we really need to do that again since we're all going to be meeting with them? So the question to this committee is, do we want to keep our current process or do we want to change it? I'm ambivalent to it. I'm fine either way. Stu?
I would like to keep our current process only because numbers are one thing, but when you sit down with the department head and start asking other questions and go into deeper detail, you get a better idea of what the department's going through.
I agree.
Any other feedback?
I found that very helpful. I don't know if it was just a first year thing or an Andy learning thing, but the conversations were really helpful for me.
Anybody else? Now, Angelina, you haven't gone through it yet. This is going to be your first year going through it. Barry?
We always had a preliminary budget in hand that would show for each department, each cost center, if you will, salaries from previous year and percentage change, expenses from previous years and expected change, and what those expenses would be used for, $400 for a Wi-Fi thing or whatever. And then there was always a third line that would indicate other things that you might use. The value in that approach was, yes, you had all of the numbers there. And it took a lot of work for the town administration to get all those numbers lined up. But it also explained in those little paragraphs on the left-hand side, what was included in expenses. You know, was the Ferrari in there again? Or were you still using just wheelie carts? And how much does it cost to rent those wheelie carts each week, if that makes any sense? So we had all of that data. Now we have ClearGov, a little harder for us to dig the information out because we're not 100% fluent with ClearGov yet, but we will be. But I think in either case, it's of value for us to have all of that information so we can then start asking appropriate questions of the department heads. Does that make sense? Thanks.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. Go ahead, Sue Fiacco.
With the ClearGov, as I was speaking to you a little earlier about, Mark, is that in that area, in the ClearGov, there is the itemized breakdown that the department head can write their information on. And then there's also a short explanation request. And I'm guessing that there's going to be a lot of that information there that Barry is speaking about, in addition to either, I don't know, Evan, if you're going to write anything or what will be needed, but I think a lot of that is going to be there like we had in the past. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, thank you. It will be built out. One of the things that we didn't like about that former departmental budget breakdown is a lot of that information was stagnant year over year.
Yeah.
It just said the same thing when I was going and digging back through. A lot of it was exactly the same going back 5+ years. And so ClearGov forces you to refresh that descriptor. But what happens next is, so on the 17th, they'll have their final submissions to us. Then Mary and I sat down with each department head and go line by line through and then write in those descriptors. So we'll take about a day to do all of that. And then that should give you more information. And then there's also, there's the ability for, once we get rolling, for you to, we can flag things that you want a better detailed breakdown, and then the department head can just upload that information right onto that line item, and you can go from there.
Go ahead, Sue Robbins.
Dan brought up a really good point the last time we discussed ClearGov, and that's the question of the open meeting law. I don't think we as Finance Committee can ask the department heads on ClearGov questions because it's going to be including all of us. So I think we have to be careful about violating that.
That's a very, very good point. Yeah, because the violation is your opinion. If you offer an opinion and then it comes to the rest of us, that's the issue. We don't want to do that. Angelina,
Right,
did you have something? I'm sorry, Evan.
No.
Go ahead, Angelina.
I was just wondering if you were going to be adding like forecasting data to, are they going to be forecasting for this year in addition to requesting their budget for next year, or is that not happening yet?
Go ahead, Evan.
So yes, it will, once all the data is in there, we will start running forecasting. And so I've already done that, playing around a little bit with capital planning and scenario building and so on and so forth. But so that'll get built out. The thing with open meeting law is if the Finance Committee members are asking questions, that's okay.
Yep.
They just can't follow up from the answer and say, oh, that's great, or I love that, or that's a good idea. That's where it goes off the rails. So, in theory, the Finance Committee could come up with a protocol that says, look, you can ask as many questions as you want. You can't respond with any opinion. And then what we have to do is when we have a meeting, we separate out those questions and review them as a group to discuss what the answer was. That's one way I've seen it happen in other communities. Or you can just have a no commenting policy. And then when we get together to review the budget, we all go through line by line anyways, and you can ask your question at that point. It's really at the discretion of your committee, which way to go.
So I take, go ahead, Sue Fiacco.
Mark, is it appropriate to ask the questions that I was,
Yes, why don't you do that now? That'd be a good opportunity to do that. Go ahead, Sue.
okay, thank you. So Evan, are you folks feeding, once you get the information on the request, there's a lock button on the in progress?
Yeah.
So are you getting everything in the short term and the itemized breakdown and then feeding it in yourself, or am I doing something wrong?
So once you click submit, that's when it locks it for you.
Okay, I am locked.
Okay. Do you need to be unlocked?
Yes, I do, please.
Okay.
And I think it's because finance committee's not on the server.
Okay.
Okay,
Yep, I will go in there and unlock you.
thank you.
Sure.
And so
Because
Sue,
I
you're
was
just gonna
worried
go in
that I
there.
Hadn't
and
put the
Sue,
whole thing in.
Yeah.
So you're gonna go in there and do it the same way. You're gonna go in there and put the budget that we voted at our last meeting.
Yes. Which was lower than,
Yep.
okay,
That's because of the 9.5 hours on the, on the clerk position, split between the Affordable Housing Trust and this committee. And Dan, my understanding is the Affordable Housing Trust is all set with that and you guys voted to do it or something like that?
So we didn't vote, but we did like affirm that that was the plan, that we were under the impression we were doing the whole time. So yeah, we're good with that. Personally, I'm a little bit skeptical that we're gonna find someone who wants this kind of very variable job. But
Well, let me ask, that's a good question. So Evan, let me ask you a question. First of all, where are we? Have we gotten any more applicants? Because I know we had to re-advertise. And then the second question is, if it turns out that we're not going to find somebody that wants to do this, the finance committee certainly does not want to lose the hours that we have assigned to us with a new clerk once we go back live and we're not on Zoom anymore.
Right.
Would you as a town administrator agree to reinstate our budget as is, should that need arise?
Oh, absolutely. 100. Yep.
Okay.
Without question.
All right, that puts my mind at ease a little bit. I don't know, Dan, how do you feel about that?
about what piece of it?
If we don't find somebody to fill the hybrid position between the two boards, and we still want our 18-hour clerk or whatever our clerk is, how many hours? I think it's 18 hours. We'd still want our 18-hour clerk, correct?
Right.
All right. Evan, where are we with that, by the way?
So it was re-advertised. And I think our applicant pool is again very shallow. So let me do this though. Let me circle back with Krista first thing in the morning and push out what we have. I have not reconnected with her on that advertisement since maybe last Wednesday. So
Okay.
let me do that.
Yeah, let us know, because Barry, Sue, and I are still our representatives
Yep.
on that interview group, so
Yep.
hopefully we'll get somebody.
Yeah, it's
Somebody,
been real hard. I advertised for Joanne Duncan's position. And I got 6 people and only 1 actually responded to come in for an interview. It's just,
Really?
it's
I wonder
just
why.
awful right now. I don't know.
We've had tremendous luck on our advertising. We get
Oh,
30,
nice.
40 applicants for everything we advertise.
Well,
Much
we're
like
getting,
the town manager in Groton, a lot more than the town administrator in Grafton, I'm just saying.
that's what it is. I know. I'm just gonna put email Mark Haddad, and just bait and switch them a little bit.
That's all you have to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, but we got, what was it? 1 interest from an air traffic controller. I think that's what we need.
All for it.
I forgot about that.
it was.
That's true.
An aircraft carrier. Wow.
All right, so Evan, you'll get back to us and let us know where you are with the interviews. You're gonna unlock the thing so Sue can put in the right budget for us.
Yeah.
Sue, will you notify the select board that it's Andy and I representing us on the TRICOM moving
Absolutely.
forward?
Yeah.
Is there anything else that we need to talk about?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Barry.
Let me verify my understanding of something. Right now, or in the past, 1 or 2 of us have gone in and interviewed, for example, the town accountant And then we go off and we interview the school administration, et cetera. And we ask them a series of questions. They give us their thoughts. I write down notes so I can bring it back to the finance committee. Is there any violation of open meeting laws in any of that, or are those just cool one-on-one?
This is a
meetings?
9-member committee. A quorum of this committee is 5 members.
Right.
3 of us going to meet with an individual department, taking notes and asking questions, not offering an opinion, is not a violation of the open meeting law. Evan,
Okay.
correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right.
Okay, just want to make sure.
No, it's a good question, Barry, because we don't want to get into any, problems with the open meeting law. It's a nightmare. So I'm glad you asked that question. All right, anything, go ahead, Sue.
So sorry.
No, why are you
do-
sorry?
Do you, because I know you all have to go. The method that we prepare for each department after you review with the department head individually. Barry, do you want to talk about that?
Okay. What was it, 2-3 years ago, when the thought is this: I make up a series of questions, and they pretty much are the same questions, same type of questions I'm going to ask for each department head. When I talk to Bob or I talk to Jen, I ask them pretty much these same questions. You have enough money in the budget? Are there other things you could do if you had more money? You need more staff? You know, the usual things. I write those up and I bring them back, and I try to share them with the finance committee. Do we want to identify a series of standard questions that everybody will use? Do we want to identify a way of getting all of this information back to the finance committee? Because it's great that I know it, but everybody else in the finance committee probably would benefit from some of the information. So do we want to have something that's a little more structured, or do we want to have it loosey-goosey?
I'd be interested in Sue Robbins' opinion on that, because this is something that Sue's been doing the longest. How do you feel, Sue?
I've always done it loosey-goosey, as Barry frames it. I like it to be just independent and free to do it because things change every year. Standard questions always don't make for that year. I just as soon do it the way we've been doing it. I mean, Barry can do his structured questions if he wants, but I prefer to go in there with an open mind and a freshness without having to worry about, but they're going to get into the habit of the standard questions, and we're going to get just a monologue back from them instead of, questions that you would ask unexpectedly, and they're going to be a little surprised by it. So I just as soon do it the way we've been doing it.
I kind of agree with you, Sue. I kind of agree with you. Go ahead, Sue Fiacco.
I think the key here is that every finance committee member is informed, whether it's during the meeting or during the process of reviewing that particular budget on a Saturday or a Wednesday or whatever day it's going to be. I'm kind of interpreting Barry, but I think that's the point, is that everybody knows the same information.
Yes.
I get that, but I know that when we meet on Saturdays, if there's anything that needs to be brought to the finance committee, we've always done that with each of our departments.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's nothing really new to report that is unusual or not expected, we just leave it like that. But I think there's been times when we all have come together on Saturday and said, well, this is a particular issue that the department has this year. We should pay attention to it. So.
Yep, good
I don't-
point.
Right.
Go ahead, Andy.
Having only done this once, I can say I enjoyed kind of the looser, more conversational style, but at the same point, it's great when you go into these things new and you have somebody to mentor you as you go through it, and they typically know the right questions to ask. But it may not be a bad idea to have a few baseline questions that are fairly open-ended that or conversation starters, as it were. just to have something, or, and you're free to go off script and do what you like, or pick the ones that are relevant. But, at least have maybe a couple lines of a playbook together.
Sue, didn't you pass out some questions last year on some standard questions that each department?
I believe it was last year, and I can certainly send that back out again.
I think that would,
Everyone is in agreement.
that would probably be helpful for all the newer members. I mean, a lot of us have been doing this for a while, so I keep forgetting we have new members who haven't been through this process. So that probably would be helpful. Those are just basically some standard things that get asked. So, and then you go
Correct.
from there.
Sounds good.
Anything else? All right, any other items, Sue, did we forget?
No, I think we're all set. So I'm free basically to send out that I had not sent out our to the department heads who's been assigned to them yet. I wanted to wait to, well, fortunately, this meeting was scheduled. And just to send that out, we're good with the March timeline that we talked about. Okay,
I think so. That's still good, right? Evan, by the time we get the budget and do all that sort of fun stuff?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
All right. that sounds like a
Evan, do you
plan.
have a date yet for the public hearing for presentation of the budget? I don't want to sound crazy. I know it's early.
No, I honestly don't.
Okay, I
Um,
just want to make sure that we have our public hearing posted promptly.
Yeah, you will have that soon. Just
Thank you.
Working our way through.
There's a
other
lot
stuff.
going on.
Also, Sue, just while I have you, I did go and reset all of your permissions. So let me know if that works for ClearGov, and if it doesn't, shoot me an email and I'll go to somebody that knows more than me.
Many thanks. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Go ahead, Sue Robbins.
So I just wanted to ask Kevin a question before he left. Are we going to have a special in January or February?
Not sure yet. So the board is likely going to set a tentative date for a special at their next meeting. We are working through some rather complicated legal stuff, and we're not entirely sure if it's going to play out or not, but we are going to set a special, like I said, a tentative special date in January so that we have it if we need it. It has to do with a TIF structure for the 27 Upton Street property. We're trying to see if, because most TIFs you do for commercial or business development. However, you can do it's called Urban Center Housing TIF. And we're pursuing that right now to see if our zoning will allow us to do it. We're talking with DCHD. And so if that goes positively, we'll have a special and make a proposal.
Are we going to bring up the town clerk situation again for special?
I can't answer that. The board has not decided one way or another what it's going to do. And I don't really have a good inclination to give you either at this point.
Thank you.
Evan, we say this to you all the time, but thank you so much for attending our meetings. So good to be able to ask you questions, get answers right away, and allow us to go about doing our business. And I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but I've been on the finance committee now for 4 years. Sue and Barry have been on longer than me, but you have no idea how awesome it is to have you here and have the ability to talk to you, ask questions, get answers, and move on. So I just want to say thank you. It's
Absolutely.
it's
And I
wonderful.
appreciate all of you. You do make this easy. It's a conversation and not there's no dichotomy there. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. It's a nice time every time I come.
Yeah, that's a good group of people.
Years.
I love working with them, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Maybe we
Um,
should
even with-
change.
What's that?
Maybe we should change.
Let's not. Let's not. All right, being no further business, thank you all for the short notice meeting. I'm glad we were able to get this done tonight. We accomplished a lot.
Yep.
And I wish everybody a very, very, very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And we'll see you at the beginning of July, or January rather.
All
Take
right.
care, everybody.